Introducing Instagram Teen Accounts, a new way to keep your teens safer as they grow, like making sure they've got the right gear for riding.
Knee pads.
Check.
And helmet.
Done. See you, Dad.
New Instagram Teen Accounts, automatic protections for who can contact your teen and the content they can see.
Support for this podcast comes from Progressive, America's #1 boat insurer. We've all made mistakes on the water, but there's one mistake you shouldn't make: being uninsured. With Progressive Boat Insurance, you can choose coverage for most mistakes you or other boaters could make, helping you float carefree all season long. Quote today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. #1 rating based on boat market share data from ratefilings.com.
Welcome to the Backpacking Bushers podcast, brought to you by Enlightened Equipment, the best quilt makers for ultralight and weaker hikers like Ben. Check them out at enlightenedequipment.com. With me today is Ben McAuliffe. How are you doing today, my friend?
Doing good. So I got a question for you, because we were sitting around the dinner table with my kids, and what is the biggest toy you had as a kid? Like the most iconic toy that would define your childhood era? Because I think of it now, like for us, it's video games. Like our kids are all like, oh, it's video games. But for us, we had toys. So what would be one of your toys?
Yeah, I mean, and they still have, like, the kids have toys too, for sure, right?
Yeah.
They have, like, action figures and stuff.
But
yeah, my biggest, the, like, physically biggest one, but also the most iconic one, I got for Christmas one year, and it was, like, Voltron. Like, each of the individual lions, you put it together into this massive statue of Voltron.
Yeah.
But they gave it to me, like, I think it was two or three nights before Christmas, because we were going out to my uncle's house in Michigan. And so they're like, here is the most iconic toy of all time. Great. Go to bed, put it away. We're flying out tomorrow. You can't play with it for like 2 weeks. So that was mine. What was yours?
Mine was probably G.I. Joes. Like we grew up in that era. G.I. Joes, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle action figures. And then I had a My Pet Monster, which I don't know if people even remember that, but those were my most iconic ones.
I don't. All right, so how does this relate to hiking REV, or like tips for newer, weaker, old scare hikers? How does this all relate? What's going on here?
Well, it made me feel old, because I'm talking to the kids and like, hey, you guys, and they're like, my son has Legos and my other son has like, the basketball hoop behind the door, but they don't have like, in my opinion, they don't have like the iconic toys anymore that we did.
Gotcha.
So
yeah. Okay. No Teddy Ruxpins or
no,
like
just
that.
made me feel old. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Gotcha. In talking about just these different types of hikers that we're trying to have tips for, we're going to be leaning on a guy known as Hiking Rev here in a couple minutes. But I just realized like a lot of these are trying to put to rest some fears. So what's your biggest outdoor fear?
Probably being lost and then having it spiral out of control. So like, rather than like stopping and thinking like, panic, and then just start like doing something like you shouldn't do, like running in a direction that you think's good. And then you get more lost and it just gets worse. And, next thing you know, I'm, 10 years living in the woods.
This sounds like you're recounting like an actual nightmare that you've had. Am I off base here?
No.
Okay. That's hilarious.
I haven't had that one, but
mine's similar. Mine's more like not like lost. Mine's just going for miles in the wrong direction for miles. So I've had that happen before. Like back when I used to do adventure races, we did this multi-day race, and we had this guy who he'd just come off a race, and he did such a good job navigating. So he was the guy with the map, and you typically only have one map guy. And we were on a mountain biking section, and we're on this dirt road, and we come to a bridge, and under the bridge, there's like other teams. It looks like there's people checking things off. It just looks like a checkpoint. I was like, there we go. It's right there. He's like, incorrect, buddy. It's up this mountain. I was like, really? Because everybody's going there, and there's like race officials standing there. And I was pretty young, so I didn't have the guts to kind of just naysay him. So we went 5 miles up this mountain before we realized that was the right way to go. And
oh my gosh!
At that point, I just took the map away from him. Like, you're not getting this back. So anyway.
You lost your privileges.
You lost your privileges.
There you have it, folks.
We'll see what Hiking Rev has to say about stuff like that. But Bible verse of the episode, Proverbs 16:31: "Gray hair is a crown of glory; it is gained in a righteous life." So, Ben, are you going to eventually grow your hair back out so you have a crown of glory?
I like to think my crown of glory is in heaven and not here on the.
Okay.
I got the gray hair on the beard. Does that just mean like I don't know? I guess I don't have it on this life. But what about you? Are you going to grow yours out? Yeah.
Yeah. Mine hasn't turned gray yet, so I can't do that yet.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe I'll have to do a mullet. I think that's the only thing I can grow.
Okay. Well, I'll take it. Take what you can get.
Yeah.
All right. Well.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of gray hair, we've got somebody who is a veteran hiker. At age 68, he hiked the entire Pacific Crest Trail. He's done other thru hikes since then, and he's now about to turn age 72, and he's about to do the Appalachian Trail, man known as Hiking Rev, right now. With us today is a man known by Jerry Michael Callahan, otherwise known as the Hiking Rev. How's it going today, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great. How you guys doing?
Excellent. Happy to have you. Happy to have you.
All right. So, Rev, what is the weirdest thing you saw on the trail? Let's just get that out there.
Which trail? Just all the ones that I've been on?
Any like one that just sticks out. Yeah.
Ben's still working on how to ask a question. Yeah, he's been on lots of trails. He's on trails like every day.
What is named a trail? Yeah.
Okay. PCT towards the very end. And what's really weird, it's not an animal. It's a human. Talking about the weirdest thing.
Okay, so what weird human?
Oh, where was I at? Stevens Pass. I was at Stevens Pass, and I was trying to get a hotel, and so I was calling on the phone, and a guy walked up, and he started jiggling the doors. And of course, 2020, there's nobody there. It's just me and him. So he's jiggling the doors trying to get in, and so I'm waiting. So as soon as I got, my motel room, I hung up the phone and I said, "Hey, dude, there's nobody here." He says, "Oh man," he says, I wanted to get my paycheck." And I said, "Well, there's nobody here." I said, "I don't have your paycheck." And so anyway, I'm thinking to myself, now I've got to get to Leavenworth, which is a pretty good drive away from Stevens Pass. And so I thought, hey, I'll just get this guy to take me, So I asked guy, "So where are you going?" And he was going past Leavenworth. And so I said, could I get a drive? Could I get a hitch just to Leavenworth and drop me off at my motel and you can go on? He said, sure. So we're walking to his car and we get in the car and he drives off and I'm talking to him and he's not responding.
Oh no.
Yeah. Oh no. And so I'm going, okay, maybe I'm not talking loud enough, whatever. And so I asked him another question, no response.
Wait. What kind of question are you asking him where he's not responding? Like what? Like, so where are you from? Where are you from?
Are you a serial killer?
Where are you from? Or man.
And nowhere, he's just sitting there.
Just sitting there, driving. And I went, okay, something ain't right here. And so
the doors just automatically lock on them.
That's right. They were locked, that's right. Okay. But then he turns to me and he looks at me and he goes, sometimes I hear voices. Then I really started freaking out. I started going for the door at that time. He said, I don't know. And I don't know, what his problem was. I'm sure it was some kind of psychological problem, but man, here he is going, 70 miles an hour down the freeway and I'm wanting to jump out.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow.
But anyway, I'm trying to engage him. I'm thinking, is he going to slam into a car or are we going to go off a cliff or whatever?
Yeah.
But finally we get to the motel room and, he kept asking, he says, how much further is it? How much further? And so I told him, that's right. Well, I think it's just right around the corner,
Right.
And so finally we get there. I've never been so glad to get out of a car in all my life.
Yeah.
That was the weirdest experience I think I ever had.
Wow. Okay. We're going to talk more about hitchhiking because you put out a video about it that I got a question about later on. But that's interesting that you had that experience and then put out a video after that about how to go hitchhiking. You think that might be your last one? Just saying. Yeah. So you're known as a Hiking Rev. Can you tell us about your trail name? How did you get it? What does that mean? What's it all about?
Well, I was in the Lake Tahoe area, the Desolation Wilderness area, and it was before I even took a My first long distance through hike was the Pacific Crest Trail, but I was doing some hikes around the Desolation Wilderness area, Lake Tahoe area. And these two guys came up to me. They introduced themselves and they said, "Hey, how you doing?" I said, "Great." One of them said, "My name's James." And he said, "This is my brother, John." And I started laughing. And they looked at me, "Why are you laughing?" I said, "Well," I said, "Jesus had 12 apostles, and one of them, I said, two of them were brothers. And I said, their names were James and John,
Yeah.
And
Right,
so
right.
immediately they said, "Are you a Rev? Are you a Reverend?" And I said, "Well, I'm a pastor." And I said, I'm retired. I just retired not too long ago. I said, "But yes, I'm a pastor." And so the whole time that I was around them in camp and everything, it was Rev this, Rev that. And so that's how I got my trail.
Nice.
Because surely nobody besides a reverend could know James and John, right? Like nobody else that's ever heard any Bible stories could know that.
Exactly. I mean, but as soon as they said it, I just started laughing, James and John.
Yeah.
Also said, "Oh, Sons of Thunder, huh?" And they went,
That's
rhythm.
Yeah. That's going deep.
Yeah, that's a cool name. All right, so put out a video. So you're about to turn 72 years old, I believe, in May. You've had heart surgeries, but you're starting the Appalachian Trail this year, I think here in a couple weeks. So with that video, what types of responses did you get?
About like what you said, you've had heart surgeries and another thing I had. Well, 8 months after I finished the Pacific Crest Trail, I was doing, I was living down in Southern California at the time, and I was doing a trail, and it's pretty flat, in a desert area. And there was this one hill, and I think it was like 500 feet of elevation, not very much, but I couldn't get up it. And I'd get up, and I would just be winded, and so I'd come back down, and I'd rest, and then I'd try it again. And I thought, well, maybe I'm having heat exhaustion or whatever, and so I tried about 3 times and couldn't get up the hill. So I came back down. I got underneath a bush to get out of the sun and everything. I called my wife, and she said, "Honey, you better call 911. And I said, "Nah, real men don't call 911.
What do you
No,
know?
you better go." So I tried it one more time, and sure enough, I just ran out of gas.
Wait. So you ignore the wife's advice right away.
Of course.
Instead of resting, call 911. Let me try it just one more time.
Before 911, go up the hill again.
Yeah. Let's
So
just
then I
see.
went back down the hill. I got under the same bush, and I called 911. The lady that answered the phone, she said, "Well, just stay right there, sir, and we'll have someone come to get you, whatever." And so before I knew it, man, CHP helicopters flying overhead, and they're looking for me,
Oh, wow.
And she said,
Oh, wow.
"Sir," she said, "they can't find
Yeah.
you for some reason." I said, "Well, I'm underneath a bush." And I said, "Well, could you climb up underneath the bush?" And so I did. I waved at him, and so
Just go to the top of the hill.
That would have been funny if the dispatcher would have said that, like, "Hey, can you get somewhere high and flag him down?"
So they put me in there and took me to a ambulance that was there waiting for me, and they did the EKG on it, stuff like that. And so they determined, you need to go to the emergency room. And so they took me to the local emergency room, and it was discovered that I had a heart attack 8 months after I finished the Pacific Crest Trail. Crazy.
Yeah.
I asked my cardiologist, well, the cardiologist in the emergency room, I asked her, I said, "Look, I just finished, a 2,600 mile hike. Why am I getting a heart attack on this, flat trail?" And this is what he told me. It's amazing. He said, "The body is an amazing thing. Your heart knew that it had, 100% blockage in it. And so what it did is it grew, and I think they call it secondary circulation. I think they call it something else too, but secondary circulation. And it actually grew arteries to bypass that blockage." And he said, And this is what the cardiologist said. He said, hiking the PCT saved your life.
Okay.
Whoa.
That's crazy. Yeah, because I would have had that same question, especially, I mean, you can, I don't know, if it's 8 months after, you can really let yourself go pretty fast in 8 months. I know from personal experience. So
yeah, but I tried not to, so I was in pretty good shape, you know, and I hadn't gained any weight and everything. And so that's why I was wondering, why am I having a heart attack?
So takeaway for everybody else out there, we always try to apply this to everybody who's listening. So if you're in your 60s, your mid to upper 60s, and maybe you have some heart problems, to solve the problem, just hike the PCT is what you're saying. That's all you got to do.
I don't want to get anyone in trouble, but I want to know if it was maybe the food he was eating too, you know, what dehydrated food he had.
I quit trying to figure out how it happened, you know, but I just tried to, do what the doctor said.
All right. So speaking of that, what would be your top 3 tips for older, newer, weaker, or scared hikers?
Oh, let me see. Scared hikers, hike somewhere close to where you live. And so that if you do get real scared, you can jump in your car real quick and go home. Another thing that helped me, and I think I saw it on a YouTube video, is before the sun goes down, kind of walk around your area where you're camping so that you'll be familiar with things. Because a lot of times when you look out of your tent and you see what looks like a bear, it's really that log or that tree that's, right in front of you. So you're kind of, you become familiar with your area there.
That's a good
one. That's really good.
Yeah. Because the scared hikers are typically the ones that are going to have a hard time at night where they're hearing the sounds out of their tent. Yeah. I mean, I've backpacked with somebody who literally got zero sleep. She was wide awake the whole night, just listening to every sound, expecting a mountain lion to fly through the tent. And so that's why, we kind of joke about the scared hikers, but that is a thing. And she was with her husband in the tent. It wasn't like she was by herself.
Yeah, and you think Carl snoring would keep the mountain lions away? So I always sleep better.
Right. And it did, because no mountain lion attacks that night. So
one thing that really kind of brought this home to me was when I was hiking on the PCT. I was actually in the desert area, almost to Kennedy Meadows, and I was walking down the trail and I heard this snap. I mean, a real loud snap, not just a twig.
Sasquatch.
And so I immediately looked down and there was a bear, and I mean, his rear end was, big. It was a big bear, but he was running away from me as fast as he could. And that told me, they're more afraid of you than you are of them.
For the most part.
See, I would have thought differently. If I saw a bear running away, I don't know if I'd look behind me. I would be like, well, if that bear's running, something's behind me. I got to run too.
What else is out there?
No, that's one thing you do not want to do is run from a bear.
Okay.
But
he's not running. He's running. He's chasing the bear. Really, is what he's doing.
Yeah, I'm chasing the bear because I think the bear's running from whatever's behind me. Yeah.
Which could be worse. Could be a guy with voices. That's a good tip for like scouting the area around your camp is a really good tip for scared hikers. You put out a video that got a ton of hits just about tips specifically for older hikers. So what's one of those that you feel like really resonated with folks?
One thing I think that really resonated, and I had a lot of older people tell me this, is I said, look, don't try to keep up with the young bucks. And again, I guess, because I'm older, I want to hike as fast or, as intense as younger guys that are, 40 years younger than me, but I just can't do it. So I said, look, don't worry about it. I said, just, hike a long time,
We had a couple folks who were over 70 on our last Patreon trip. And on our last day, we were hiking out, and I was trying to catch up to them, and I couldn't catch up to them. So we got to tell them that.
Oh yeah, they were.
You need to slow down.
Slow down.
Yeah, I was like,
we had to run a couple times to catch up to them.
They finished 20 minutes ahead of us. So.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Yeah. Okay, but that's generally a good tip. I think just as you get older, you just have to understand that you're not. You just have to kind of take it as it comes, right? And some days are faster, some days are slower, some days are easier, some days are harder. So I like that one.
Used to, when I was younger, man, I could just fly up a hill. But nowadays, I just have to just slowly, take one step at a time and to get up a hill, because you're eventually going to get up there. It's just going to take you a little bit longer.
Yeah. Slow and steady. That's what we tell our cadets, our firefighting cadets, like when we hike, it's like, just don't stop. That's the biggest thing. Just keep going. Don't stop. Set a good pace. And yeah, it's so much harder to start again.
All right. I like that one. So that's tip 2. Tip number 3, what you got?
I used to despise trekking poles. I thought they were for old people, duh. But I love hiking poles because, they can propel you. It's almost like you're walking upstairs and you're grabbing hold of the banister and pulling yourself up. When you're going across the river or stream or something like that, man, it can sure help you to, steady yourself from falling and things like that. And plus, one of my videos, I talked about, you can entertain yourself and pretend like you're, beating a drum with the sticks.
Those are large drumsticks.
Yeah. Or you can pretend like you're leading the band and stuff like that. So,
parade for sure.
So anyway, don't despise trekking poles, really.
Okay. So if you're not going to despise them, and now like you're all in on the trekking poles, what brand or what type do you use?
I first started off with Leckies. I think it was Leckies. I've been on, and so I had to get a new brand. And I love I think it's Mountain Tech. Okay, you know what I'm talking about? They're very inexpensive. They're on Amazon.
Yeah.
And that's how I use it.
Cascade Mountain Tech.
Cascade Mountain Tech. That's it. But I love them.
Now, do you have the tent? Do you have the tent that goes with them?
The tent that goes.
Like, do you use the trekking pole tent or not?
I'm using the Durston tent now. I love the Durston tent. Durston one man.
The X-Mid, yeah.
X-Mid.
There you go. I think you're just kind of scratching the surface. If you want to check out all the tips he's got for older hikers, weaker hikers, whatever, we'll have a link to that in our description for his YouTube channel, because there's some good stuff on there. And speaking of some of the videos you put out, so we already mentioned that you had a hitchhiking video, like how to I forget what you called it, but it was like how to successfully hitchhike. So
something like that.
I have hitchhiked over the years pretty successfully, but I had one failed attempt. So I'm going to tell you about it, and I want to know what I should have done differently. Okay? Over the years, I've been with a buddy, I've been by myself, and I've been successful. But this time, I was in Yosemite, and it was at the end of a trip, and I was with my family. So I feel like of all the scenarios, I'm the safest guy now. I've got my wife, I've got 2 very young kids. I didn't plan it well. We got to the end of the trail, and I left my wallet in the car, so we couldn't shuttle back to where my car was parked. So we were at a visitor center, so I wasn't like on the side of the road thumbing. I was at a visitor center. People are leaving the visitor center. They can go one way or the other, and the other way was where my car was parked. So I'm approaching people, typically people that don't have kids of their own, like in their 50s and 60s, and I'm just like, hey, I'm with my family. I just need to ride down the road a little ways to get my car. And I just kept on getting rejected and rejected and rejected. I even had one, I think it was one woman who's like, oh, yeah, of course. And then her husband's like, no, don't let that guy come. What should I have done? What would you do in that situation?
Look like an old person, and they feel sorry for you.
Okay. Get a wig.
Yeah.
I had problems. In fact, I was at government camp on PCT towards the end of the trail. And I went to an area like that where there was a lot of people, and they were parked, and they were going in and out of the car. And I mean, I could not get anybody to give me a ride. I mean, it was crazy, Then there was this one time, the trail intersected with the road, and I got to the road, and I took my pack off and didn't even stick my thumb out. And a guy pulled over and said, hey, you need a ride?
That's the best.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's the best right there.
Easy.
Let me tell you something. I know it's crazy, okay? But you know yourself. People will pick you up quicker if you've got a female with you.
I had my wife with me. She was right next to me.
It just looks shady. Here's Carl with like little kids, and they're like, "What?"
I had like a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old. How dangerous am I?
Well, it's probably more like we got to take the whole family. We can't just take like one person. Like,
no, they were sitting on the bench. And I was like, "It's just me. It's just me."
oh,
Yeah.
Should have had your wife out there.
Now, I tell you one thing. In California, it was real easy to hitchhike. When I did the Pinhoti Trail, which is Alabama, Georgia, nobody would pick me up. And I'm from the South, and I remember my mom and dad telling me all the time, don't pick up hitchhikers. They're axe murderers. So maybe that's what they were thinking. I don't know.
It makes me feel better that I'm not the only one, especially somebody who puts out a video about hitchhiking has had struggles. It's time for our lightning round, Rev. You've got 1 minute to answer as many questions as you can. We typically have people answer anywhere between 8 and 13 questions. And the last time I did this, I stumped somebody. So pretty low bar for you to be here. And we're going to start the timer once Ben asks his first question.
All right.
Rev, are you ready for this?
Yes.
Wait a second. Are you not wanting to do the lightning round? You don't sound very excited about this.
The pressure, man. I pulled under pressure.
There's no pressure. This is just for fun. Just for fun. And Ben's pretty good at asking good questions, so I'm all over the place, but all right. Ben, whenever you're ready.
What's your favorite alien encounter?
I take back what I just said.
This is a movie a long time ago. Something of the third kind.
Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Yeah.
Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Yes.
Favorite Bible verse?
John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believed in him should not perish but have everlasting life.
Amen. Favorite road trip snack?
Peanut butter M&Ms.
Best place to go backpacking?
Desolation Wilderness.
Yes. Which apostle would you like to meet?
Paul.
Boots, trail runners, or other?
Trail runners. By far.
Favorite non-essential item to bring on a trip?
Non-essential. I've been bringing that flex tail automatic.
Oh yeah, we talk about it.
Yeah, I love that, man.
And time. There you go. See, you got them in.
Oh wow!
Yeah. And I would like to apologize for Ben's terrible first question. I literally told Ben, start with like easy, kind of like so they can get in the flow, and he's like, I'm gonna throw an awkward, like really weird question first. So I apologize for Ben.
Yeah, I thought it'd be good to start first because then I had other ones, but I thought let's start hard first, and then he's like, after this, everything's easy. So
that was terrible.
I tell you, my favorite show was the X-Files, man. Growing up.
Oh, was it? Okay.
And of course, that was full of aliens,
Lots of aliens,
Yeah.
lots of Mulder and Scully time for sure. So we should have them on. Yes. We should have the Mulder and Scully on as the FBI agents and interview them and find out about some stuff.
Oh man, that would be awesome.
Yeah. If you have any connections, we're happy to lean on you for that. All right, Bennett. Anything else he shared there that caught your interest?
Well, I feel like I'm looking at you, Carl, in 30, 40 years because he brought up the flex tail. I know you like those, and I
don't like those.
Rev, do you hike with like a 1-inch mini knife? I just gotta know. Do you?
Yeah. It's
like a little.
Yeah,
miniature
is
knife?
that the one with the scissors, little scissors, and the toothpick?
Not that one.
That's all. Yeah,
it could be. I could see.
I have this 1-inch blade knife that does the minimum job you'd want from a knife, and Ben thinks it's the funniest thing in the world. So that's what
I don't even hardly use that.
Well, okay. So after hiking for thousands of miles, in the Pacific, how many times do you wish you had a pretty big blade?
You don't really need it.
No, see, told you.
I used to, buy a block of cheese, and I would cut it with my little 1-inch knife, and but now I just.
That's how our buddy Rocky does it. Big block. It's like a power bar.
Yeah, just shut. And so I don't even hardly use my knife anymore.
I rest my case. All right. So what can we look forward to coming up on your YouTube channel? We know that you're going to be out on the trail here soon, but are videos still coming out? Updates or what's happening here?
1 week from this coming Tuesday, I'm going to be taking off to Atlanta. And then I've got somebody pick me up from Atlanta and taking me to the trailhead there. So, and I'm going to be putting out videos. I'm going to try every week to put out a video all the way to Katahdin.
Nice.
You know? But I want to put out one more video before I leave about food. Hikers stress so much about food, and it's crazy,
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. This will probably cause a big rift in the hiker community.
I love it. We like controversy.
Yeah, say it.
I've not carried a stove or a pot or anything probably in about 3 or 4 years, man.
Are you a cold soaker? You cold soak, don't you?
No, I even go further than that. I do what's called no cook.
You eat the bugs.
There's so many beef sticks, cheese sticks, just anything that you don't have to cook.
Okay.
And the crazy thing about it is when you get to camp, you got all these people that are, firing the stove up and warming the water and putting it in the mountain house or whatever, and then they have to wait for it to cool off. And by the time I'm eating my beef sticks and my summer sausage and stuff like that, man, I'm ready to go to bed, and they're not even eating yet. So
yeah.
And plus, I have to clean their pot up and stuff like that. I said food on that.
Have you ever been hanging out with those folks and they're firing up their stove and they're eating their dinner and you're sitting there? Have you ever said to them, "Are you going to eat all that?"
No.
Can I have the rest? No, whatever you don't have, can I have?
I've never had to beg food, man.
They probably offer it to him because he's just sitting there eating his beef stick, looking at them all sad, whimpering, and they're like, "All right, I'll share some with you." Yeah.
When I get into a trail town, man, I pig out. Trail food is just fuel. That's all it is.
One thing I forgot to ask you before we close out here is, you're known as the hiking REV. And so people are aware that, or at least if they're not aware, they're going to be aware that you're a pastor. Are you sharing the gospel when you're out on the trail? Are you having any Bible studies around camp, or what's that part of the story?
Well, when I first started telling people, they'll say, "What's your trail name?" And I'll go Rev. And they think that you mean you go fast, Rev. No, that's not the type of Rev, And then they think, they go, "Oh, are you a reverend?" And I'll say, "Yeah." And then immediately, they say, "Oh man, I'm sorry, I said that bad word, And so, hey, don't worry about it,
Yeah.
I only share the gospel if someone wants to know. I don't push my religion. In fact, whenever somebody tries to get into, a lot of times they call it discussions, but really all it is arguments. I tell them, I say, "Look, there's 2 things that I don't talk about on trail, and that's politics and religion,
Mm-hmm.
Now, I say, now, if you have a question, I say, I'll be glad to answer it. And if you don't like it, it's up to you. But I'm not gonna argue. I would rather talk about things that unite us, like backpacking and the trail and stuff like that, than things that divide us. I have had people, talk to me while I'm hiking. They'll ask me questions, and I can sense, the Holy Spirit will tell you, hey, that person really wants to know, and I can sense that they're wanting to know, and so I'll answer their questions, and get into things.
We don't do a Bible study every backpacking trip, but we do them pretty frequently, and not everybody that goes with us is a churchgoer. And so we just put it out there, you are invited to attend, but you're not, of course, required to or forced to attend. And more often than not, they'll show up and they might have some questions, or they might just sit there and listen, and that's fine. But we typically try to work in a Bible study typically once a trip, but it hasn't always worked out that way. That's how we do it.
On a long distance through hike like I do, I don't usually hike with somebody else. I'm usually by myself, probably about 90% of the time. And so I've got earphones and I'm listening to the Bible on my phone. And plus, man, you get up at 4:00 in the morning and you're on the trail at 5 and you're watching the sun come up and you're praying, and man, it's just awesome. It's just awesome. Yeah.
The praying and the sun coming up, I totally agree, is awesome.
Yeah.
If you just said waking up at 4 a.m, that's not awesome. Like, I'd never want to do that.
If you go to bed at 8 o'clock, that's 8 hours. So.
He's excited to wake up and get his beef sticks in and sit at the Glen.
Yeah. Well, hey, Hike and Rev, it's been an honor to have you on the show. And
thanks, guys.
We'll keep track of your progress on the Appalachian Trail. It sounds like we can keep track on
Thank
YouTube
you.
channel as you go. We'll have links to that in the show description. And yeah, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, appreciate it.
All righty. Thanks, guys.
Hi, Morgan Freeman here. I want to talk to you about a serious rare heart condition called ATTR cardiac amyloidosis, or ATTR-CM. Now, I don't have the condition myself, but if you're living with ATTR-CM, it's important to know about treatment options like Attruby, also known as acoramidis, because you have the power of choice when it comes to treatment. Attruby is an old medicine used to treat adults with ATTR-CM to reduce death and hospitalization due to heart issues. Tell your doctor if you're pregnant, plan to become pregnant, or are breastfeeding, and about the medications you take. The most common side effects were mild and included diarrhea and abdominal pain. If you have ATTR-CM, talk to your cardiologist about Attruby or visit attruby.com. That's ATTRUBY.com to learn more. It's time to get busy living.
The Essential Mango Coconut Freeze. It makes its appearance at the dinner party, right when the night could go either way between nice evening and legendary. Served in 8 perfect stoneware bowls to the sounds of circa 1950 bossa nova. Seconds, a good debate, and an impromptu round of Never Have I Ever follow. It's gonna be a late one. The Essential Evening Extender, made possible with Vitamix.
Support for this podcast comes from Progressive, America's #1 boat insurer. We've all made mistakes on the water, but there's one mistake you shouldn't make: being uninsured. With Progressive Boat Insurance, you can choose coverage for most mistakes you or other boaters could make, helping you float carefree all season long. Quote today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. #1 rating based on boat market share data from ratefilings.com.
4 missions, 12 unique patrols, a reconnaissance through the Book of Mark, led by real veterans. True stories in pursuit of spiritual readiness. Custom made for U.S. military warriors.
The trail is calling your name. Are you ready? Are you really ready? Our good friend Rowan from Summit Strength can get you trail ready. Rowan uses rock-solid evidence to design a specialized training program just for you. There are plenty of cookie-cutter programs out there that will get you only halfway up the mountain. Make it to your adventure summit with Summit Strength. The link to your success is always in our episode description, but you can check out all the information you need at summitstrength.com.au/online. It's time to be strong and pain-free for your next adventure. Okay, takeaways, my friend. What you got?
Well, let's talk about the 911 call that he had. I think we talked about it a lot on the podcast, interview, but how ridiculous. Like, you call your wife and he goes, well, I'm going to try one more time. And in my mind, like, how does he not stop halfway up the hill and then try again? Like, I didn't ask him that. That's one thing I should have. Is like, how come you couldn't stop and just keep going? Like, why didn't you rest at the top?
Yeah, I don't get that. I don't know. Maybe it was exposed and he didn't want to be resting the sun. That would have been a good question to ask. People do that. They want to just kind of do it in one shot. Like, I can make this hill. Oh, no, I can't. I'm going to try again. I'm going to try again. I'm going to try again. And obviously that didn't work out so well for him. But yeah, that was interesting, I thought, for sure. But his sort of stubbornness to not call 911, he's not alone in that. Like, I could see myself being that guy for sure.
I mean, as a first responder, we're in our community, we get that all the time where, it's almost too late when people call because they're just like stubborn. Like, they don't want to admit they're having some pain or heart attack or something. And, I mean, I'm probably that way too, where it's like, yeah, this pain's been here for, 2 to 3 weeks. I think I'm okay.
Just tough it out. Just tough it out for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What was one of your...
Yeah, so that was an interesting takeaway for sure. You kept on making this comment about like, he's the older version of you, Carl. And that hill story, like, for sure. But some of the other stuff he was saying, I mean, he didn't want to use a stove. I mean, that's not me. Like, I want to go ultralight, but I'm bringing a stove. Come on.
Well, no, but this in 30 years, I think you won't bring a stove because you can, borrow my food and you like your beef sticks. And so I think you'll just survive off everyone else's food. Yeah.
I bring a stove. I eat food that I like, and I still get jealous about some of the other food I see around camp. So if I didn't have a stove, I could only imagine. I'd be like,
just grumpy. And yeah.
Yeah. I'm already grumpy about it. It hasn't even happened yet.
He had a 1-inch knife. He said he used to have the 1-inch knife and he eventually got rid of it. So that's another prediction that in like 30 years, you're going to get rid of your knives and you're just going to start eating, bricks of cheese and, sides of beef.
I won't ever do that. I mean, you still break off a piece of a, like a block of cheese. You don't have to have a knife, right?
You don't have to. Yeah.
I don't know. There's things I've thrown around. We'll get to this later, but there's like pretty, I would say, controversial ideas I've thrown around. Like, do I really need to bring this? Can I leave this at home to lighten my load? And I'm not talking about luxury items. I'm talking about things that people typically have in their pack. And a knife is one of them. Although with my 1-inch knife, I don't think I'm shaving a whole lot of weight. But especially if you're going in a group, somebody else has one of those things, right?
For sure. Yeah. And did you like that he brought the flex tail? That surprised me. That was his like luxury item.
Yeah, and you I think you think of me as liking that as a device. I was willing to try that device out last year. That doesn't mean I like it. I tried it out. I gave it a go. It was fine, but it's just like another piece of gear that you got to charge and worry about and set up before the trip. So I'm not bringing it anymore.
Yeah. Okay. I just thought like, in 30 years, you probably would bring it because you're like, yeah, I don't want to spend time blowing up my own mattress. I want to get to camp, eat my beef stick, and just relax the rest of the night. And it sounds like, that's probably what you'd do.
I don't think you are very optimistic about 30 years from now. Like, technology is going so stinking fast. In 30 years, dude, the pads will have built-in pumps. Like, you won't have to bring it as a separate item. You'll press a button. It'll be super ultralight because the batteries will be, like nothing, and it'll just inflate on its own, right?
Yeah, and you're going to have that exoskeleton that will walk for you and hike for you, so it'll be perfect.
Not doing that. That's out of control. That's crazy. So, all right. Hey, it was a pleasure and an honor. Hiking REV is one of our favorite new guests we've had on in a while.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun, and we'll be tracking with him on the Appalachian Trail, seeing how he's doing. Hopefully, we'll have him on at the end of the season and see how his journey went, how his adventure went, and hear some more stories because that was some good stuff.
Yeah, it was awesome. Good guy.
All right, I got some tidbits for you, buddy. You ready?
All right. Yeah, let's hear them.
Okay, I got a review. I'm kind of sneaking a review into this episode. I don't think it relates to anything we talked about, but that's okay because I just got this. I'm excited about it. You can see the tags are still on right here.
Yeah. He's holding up a backpack.
It is a Deuter Air Contact Pro.
There it is, yeah.
Right, so I got the beefier version. I got the 75 plus 10, which I realize is not... It's not an ultralight pack. It's honestly best for if you're going with like full luxury style groups, you're bringing your family. That's kind of what this pack's for. And because I go backpacking with a family, with multiple families, like this is a solution. So it's a full service pack that is best for people who love like organization. Maybe you're like a spreadsheets person. Ben, I don't think you are.
No.
But there's a lot of those folks out there who have spreadsheets of gear and things. If you like to be organized like that, this is your pack. It's got all sorts of pockets and bells and whistles to kind of fit things in, especially if you're packing for others, like for your family. And the brain comes off. You can make that a day pack. It's got a tailored fit with pivoting shoulder straps.
Pivoting.
It's got the wrapping hip fins and an adjustable torso length. So this is kind of the full service, full comfort pack.
I said, is it comfortable?
It's comfortable. I mean, I literally just got it, so I haven't brought it out on the trail yet. I'm doing a preview. This is not like a review, I guess. This is like a preview of the pack. But for the types of trips you're going, maybe not like you're not hammering the miles. You're doing more like the 8-mile days or less. And you're, like I said, you're packing for others, or you just pack a lot. You just pack a lot of stuff and want something comfortable. This is your pack right here. You're paying for it in other ways, of course. Like you pay for comfort with packs, as we've learned. And so it comes in empty at 6 pounds, which is definitely on the heavier side.
Ooh.
And it is premium quality. Like this thing will probably last you decades. So it comes in at $360. And so you're definitely paying for the Deuter comfort and the Deuter quality. But if you're somebody who has to pack a lot of weight and is packing for others, I think this is a good option.
I think I'm excited. It sounds like you're going to pack for like 2 to 3 more people anytime you go backpacking now. So I'm excited. I can pack less. Everyone else can pack less.
I know. Well, I don't know that you have a leg to stand on. Like, you literally couldn't fit everything in your pack the last time we went. So this might be a pack for you. Should I save this for you?
Yeah, it looks really comfortable. So if you're listening on the podcast and not YouTube, it definitely has the comfort side of it. I'm excited to see it and see what you think of it when you use it on the trail, because it looks like it kind of molds to your back.
It does, yeah. Yeah, I mean, they make great suspension. I've used Oiter stuff before and love it. People will use this for travel as well, but yeah, I mean, we're talking backpacking, so that's kind of...
No, it looks sweet. It looks very
Thanks for letting me talk about it. Yeah, I'm excited. That's kind of the latest pack I'm excited to try out, I guess. So, all right. Other tidbits I've got is, let's see, we got a reaction from last week's episode. I had a trivia question about which of the apps, I asked this like for Chris Hazard, which of the apps was not like a navigation app? And I made up an app called Mappy. I just made it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I was like, that was the one that wasn't a real navigation app.
Sounds
and
right.
then Aaron emails me and says, by the way, it's actually a mapping app in the Czech Republic. Mappy. So I was wrong.
Yeah, because we go there all the time.
Yeah.
And
Do you? You should.
no.
I bet it's nice there. I've never been to the Czech Republic. But
yeah, nice this time of year.
his is spelled like M-A-P-Y, and my made-up one was M-A-P-P-Y. I don't know if that makes a difference, but I guess I was technically wrong. So I owe Chris Hazard an apology, which I probably won't give him if I'm being honest.
Did he choose that one? Was that the one he chose? Did he know it was from the Czech Republic, though?
No, he got that question wrong, but I guess technically it was a bad question if there's no right answer, according to Aaron.
Yeah.
I don't know if he lives in the Czech Republic or if he just like looked it up. I looked up all the apps. I like did an app search, and there's a million of them that have navigation, and that didn't come up. So I don't know.
As somebody that constantly gets emails and reviews and comments on YouTube about trivia, it doesn't surprise me one bit. Like our fans and listeners, they will constantly tell us what we say wrong. So they probably just looked it up, and I doubt they knew that it was from the Czech Republic, but maybe they did.
I feel like, though, if they were really paying attention, if everybody's really paying attention out there, you could probably find things every single episode, and we don't get that feedback every single episode. So it's kind of like a picking and choosing. You're probably right. It's probably about trivia, really, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
They felt bad.
All right. Last thing. I'm a little late in getting this out, but typically I put out that if you were interested in joining Strava, not joining the app, but like following me on Strava, I'll follow you back. Ben's on Strava. Ben will follow you back. I've started my training for my big summer trip, and I don't post all my training sessions, but I'll post like 2 to 3 a week, I guess. And every training session, I try to pray for one person that is following me, whether I know them, have met them, know nothing about them. And Ben H. from Pennsylvania, who's also part of the B&B Bible study, he formed a Strava group, so we'll figure out how to get everybody into that group. I'm not super knowledgeable about that, but anyway, I'll have links in the show description if you're interested in joining. But basically, on Strava, it's just under my name, Carl Mandrioli. Ben, what are you called on Strava?
I think Ben McCall. There's probably some numbers. Okay. I don't know. I go on once a month and post. I don't post all my activity. I work out every day too, Carl, just like you, but I only post like once a month. So, and if you're listening, you can fact check that.
Well, Rocky, if you want to follow Rocky goes by Red River, 2 words. And he posts everything. He's like, walk to the mailbox, post. He's like, sitting in chair for an hour, post. Not really, I'm exaggerating, but he posts a lot of stuff. He's just more enthusiastic about it than I am. I like it. I'm just not obsessed with it. So anyway, if you're interested, great. If not, no worries. So you got anything else?
No, I don't. But just remember, when you're hiking, you're getting older, but continue to hike.
Wait, what? Is that like a Ben proverb? That's so bad. That is so bad. Is that all you got?
You're getting old just sitting here. Yeah, that's all I got. Okay, you close this out. All right, Carl, you got anything else?
I don't have anything else, anybody, so have a good week and God bless. That's my closeout. See ya.
Hi, Morgan Freeman here. I want to talk to you about a serious, rare heart condition called ATTR cardiac amyloidosis, or ATTR-CM. Now, I don't have the condition myself, but if you're living with ATTR-CM, it's important to know about treatment options like Attruby, also known as acoramidis, because you have the power of choice when it comes to treatment. Attruby is an old medicine used to treat adults with ATTR-CM to reduce death and hospitalization due to heart issues. Tell your doctor if you're pregnant, plan to become pregnant, or are breastfeeding, and about the medications you take. The most common side effects were mild and included diarrhea and abdominal pain. If you have ATTR-CM, talk to your cardiologist about Attruby or visit attruby.com. That's ATTRUBY.com to learn more. It's time to get busy living.
Support for this podcast comes from Progressive, America's #1 boat insurer. We've all made mistakes on the water, but there's one mistake you shouldn't make: being uninsured. With Progressive Boat Insurance, you can choose coverage for most mistakes you or other boaters could make, helping you float carefree all season long. Quote today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. #1 rating based on boat market share data from ratefilings.com.